What if I told you that we're not bound for heaven, but heaven is bound for us? I know that seems strange, maybe even a little sacrilegious. Where are you going with this, Pastor Kaiya? It is not upside down backwards day, nor is it April 1st, so what are you talking about? I am talking about a biblical understanding of what it means to have a new heaven and a new earth, a whole new world. Don't worry, I will not break out into song with the Aladdin thing. That would not be pretty for anybody. But I think that this is an important thing to look at. It's not just a weird, picky theological thing, but it actually makes a difference. Let me show you. I want to share with you these words from Revelation chapter 21. John of Patmos is relaying his visions. And so he says, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the former heaven and the former earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, made ready as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. I heard a loud voice from the throne say, 'Look, God's dwelling is here with humankind. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people. God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. There will be no mourning, crying, or pain anymore, for the former things have passed away.' Then the one seated on the throne said, 'Look, I am making all things new.' He also said, 'Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true.' Then he said to me, 'All is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty, I will freely give water from the life-giving spring.'" Let us hear what the Spirit is speaking to God's people. Now, as we talked a little bit about last week, when we read from Revelation as well, this can be an intimidating book. It frankly can be a little weird and out there. And actually, I think the biggest issue is that we've heard a lot about Revelation. We've heard a lot about what's in Revelation and what it means. But I think that sometimes is not true to what is actually in there. I think sometimes in the popular imagination, certain things get lifted up and emphasized and maybe a little bit exaggerated, other things not given context or not spoken about at all. So what I want to do here is look very closely and listen for what's actually said, at least here in this passage. Start with verse 1. A new heaven and a new earth, for the former heaven and the former earth had passed away. Passed away is a bit of an unfortunate translation, and it is a common one. It's not incorrect. The problem is that a lot of English speakers use the term passed away to mean died. It's a euphemism. It's very common in the English-speaking world. It is not a euphemism in Greek. That's not how that is understood or heard commonly in the original language in which Revelation was written. So, when we hear the old or first heaven and earth have passed away, we kind of hear that in this sense of gone, destroyed, no more, no longer exists, or at least not in this world, sort of a way, the way we use passed away for people. But in Greek, if John had wanted to indicate died, he would have used an entirely different Greek phrase. This one, it does mean literally passed away, as in departed, gone, has fled, is not here anymore. But not in the sense of is not anywhere anymore. Do you see the difference? I know it might seem strange or a little bit picky here, but there's an important reason. A lot of people who have recently, and by recently, when I say theologically recently, I mean in the last 150 years, recent interpretations have been from what theologians call dispensationalist theologians. And what that means is they have interpreted Revelation to be talking about God destroying what exists now, the world, all of creation, and replacing it with something new. You might think, okay, outcome's about the same though, right? Maybe, but this is an important distinction because this passage does not support a dispensationalist theology. It does not support the idea of, for example, a rapture, where this world is destroyed and only those who are being saved are whisked away somewhere else to a new place. In fact, when we look at this description, it's not about God burning it down and starting over. Listen carefully again to verse 3. Verse 5. The one seated on the throne said, "Look, I am making all things new." That is not the same as I am making all new things. Do you hear the difference? I am making all things new is not about destruction and replacement. It is about redemption and resurrection. We'll come back. Verse 3. We heard this repetition of the word with. Maybe not a big deal, just a preposition, but again, it repeats. God's dwelling is here with humankind. He will dwell with them. God himself will be with them. The CEB does well, that's the translation I'm using here, does well in keeping those all three translated the same word, with, because they are the same word in Greek. And some translations think that that sounds just kind of not that great in English and like change it up a little bit. But it's important. With. Because what we see here is that God has chosen to join with us in this creation, to live together. Also, note the order in which this comes. We all love the verses. I love the verses. God will wipe every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. We love that. That's great. And that is a promise that we can trust. But the with part comes before the no more tears part. That means God does not remain unattached, aloof, above, and then fix things so that God can join us. God joins us in the midst of tears. God joins with us in the pain and suffering. God is with us so that God can wipe the tears away. That's an important thing to remember. God doesn't fix it and then come. God comes and then fixes with us. Still in that same verse, verse 3, you heard kind of a repetition of the word dwelling and dwell. God's dwelling will be with humankind. He will dwell with them. Again, I like that the CEB keeps those words the same. The NRSV uses home. God's home will be with them. And that's a different Greek word. And this one is not the usual word for house or home. It is intentionally different. This, more literally in Greek, would be God's tent will be with them. God will tent. Or maybe God will camp with them. That's an important distinction because tent, God's tent, reminds us of the Exodus, the tent of meeting. It's the same word that the Greek uses to translate the Hebrew in Exodus, tent of meeting. When God's people had escaped from slavery in Egypt and were wandering in the wilderness for those 40 years, God was with them how? In a tent. God spoke to Moses and said, "You need to build a tent." And then they carried this tent with them. It was the place for God to dwell, God's presence to be among them in their encampment. Wherever they were, there was the tent of meeting, the tent with God's presence. God camped with them. Here, God will camp with them. We see this also in the Gospel according to John, chapter 1. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. And without the Word, nothing came into being. And with the Word, everything that came into being through the Word. And then it says, God became flesh and dwelled among us. Dwelled there is the same dwelled here. God pitched tent. God camped with us. And we learn that God's encampment, God's tent, was no longer the tent of meeting from the Exodus long ago, but was in fact Jesus. Jesus is God's tent where God dwelled. So, when we put this all together, why does it matter? Are these just really weird little theological distinctions? Are they things that just scholars nitpick over? No, I think it's important because it affects how we believe and then how we behave. That whole renewal, redemption, rather than replacement, is very significant. Oftentimes, dispensationalist theologians have taken the stance that since this world is going to go up in flames anyway, it is not necessary that we care about it or treat it well. God's making a new, better one. so this one is disposable. But if we understand that God is making all things new, not all new things, then this world does matter. Then what we do here does matter. How we treat the world does matter. Because it is God's creation. And God is not about burning it down and starting over. God is about redeeming and resurrection. Resurrection is not about all new things, it's about all things new. Resurrection isn't in the business of starting over or quick fixes. This matters because sometimes it is tempting when we look at the state of the world or the systems or the place that we find ourselves in, we think, it is so messed up. Like, I don't know how it can be repaired. Maybe we should just burn it all down and start over. This passage gives me pause. This image that heaven is coming to us means that God's work is about entering into the pain and suffering and allowing it to be redeemed, allowing it to renew us, to rework us, to make us new, not to make a new us. Professor Bowden puts it this way. John reminds us that we are not heaven-bound. Heaven is bound for us. God has come to dwell among God's people, even in our moments of pain and suffering. So yes, it might be tempting to destroy it all and rebuild from the ground up. But that is not the work God calls us to do. God calls us to join God in the good work of redemption, the work of radical care. We don't have to burn it all down. We don't have to escape to some new world. God meets us right here on earth. I believe that this tells us that we are called to be about redemption and resurrection, that we are called to care for one another in the midst of pain and suffering, because that is what God does for us. While we might want it to be easier, while we might want to start with a fresh slate, that's not what we have. God works with what we have, what we are, and makes us new. So we can join in the ministry of making all things new, not making all new things. We are here because it matters, because the world matters. How we treat each other matters. How we treat the world, the earth, the land, the creatures, the sky. How we live matters. Because while it's still a mess, God joins us here and begins to wipe away the tears. And when God wipes away our tears, we turn and wipe away the tears of others. Thank you for choosing to spend your Sunday morning with us. I'm honored that you would choose this place to begin your week, and I hope and pray that you have found here something meaningful, an opportunity to connect with God, and that you have been given a renewal of spirit, energy, guidance, whatever it is that you need. And I would like to invite you, if you have felt a nudge this morning, whether that is to proclaim your faith in Christ for the first time, to reaffirm your faith, if maybe you had been part of it for some time, a long time ago, but have found yourself wandering in the wilderness for a while. If you would like to join with us, this community of faith, we don't promise to have all the answers or to have it all figured out, but we are committed to working it out together and to seeing and being a part of what it is that God is making new here. If you would like to share that decision this morning, then I would invite you to come and share that with me as we all stand and sing once more the Spirit song.
Satisfy your soul.
Thank you again for choosing to begin your week in worship with us. We have been given a new vision here, and I wanted to ask you to turn over your bulletin back to the front cover, because I want to share that this doesn't change our mission. Our mission remains to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. But here, we have a new vision to fulfill this mission, and I'd like you to say it with me. By creating a connected and inclusive, Jesus-centered faith family that transforms lives. Have a wonderful week. Go in peace.